All right, all right. Looks like we're live. Got to let it breathe just for a moment here. Hang tight, everybody. Hope it's been a great weekend. Just got to connect these Facebooks. You guys like my attire? I'm going to explain to you what this is in just a moment's time. Yeah, go live. There we go. Instagram. That'll be nice. And I think we're good. Welcome in, everybody, to this edition of the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, rocking it solo tonight, literally solo. Zach's on vacation all week. Scott is out tonight, probably out tomorrow with some kids stuff, baseball tournaments out of market. So I'm holding it down, baby, because I'm a sick maniac, just like y'all. If you're in this room with me today, oh boy, no football for 6 months. And 2 weeks now. We're coming up on the second week of the NFL summer. And if you're in this room with me, that means we are cut from the same cloth. All right. And speaking of, what do you guys think? I forgot to bust this out last week because I don't know. I'm just get so hustle and bustle, but this was a phenomenal gift that I got from my Aunt Karen and my Aunt Kathy. My Aunt Karen made this. It's just like a rad Bronco bib, dude. What are your thoughts? But it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that blanket material. According to my Aunt Karen, hard to find this stuff now. I'd tell you go make some of your own if you have any craftiness in you. But what do you think? Pretty good, pretty dope, right? If you're eating ribs or whatever, nothing's touching your shirt underneath. It's catching it. Anyway, thank you, Aunt Karen. Much love and respect. Appreciate you. What's going on, everybody? How is you? How is you? Papa Bear, what's up, dude? You doing better? You well? Shoot me if you feel like it, if you're up for it. Shoot me an email or something. Let me know how you're doing, buddy. Great to see you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Before I even went live, as is your way, man. Appreciate you so much. Good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag 13 and 4 plus plus. I love it, dude. Those two pluses, I think, signify at least 2 playoff wins. Indeed. Papa Bear, so good to see you, brother. String Guy, what's going on, bud? Yes, indeed. A night off to watch live. That's cool. What did David say? David Youngkin. Let's see. The culture started by the new ownership, then hired Payton, and he put the right people in place. Then came the Young Guns, Bo and Company. Yeah, it's like the chicken and the egg, right? However, I would say that, yes, of course, the Walton Penners deserve all the credit for doing what it took to hire Sean Payton, but I didn't see the culture trending in a very encouraging direction in 2022. So, no, let's be honest. The culture situation in Denver starts with Sean Payton. Full stop. You know what I'm saying, David. I'm not trying to pick holes in your theory or your take, but let's be frank, my friend. Let's see. String Guy again going, is this the same thing? No, it's just double. All good. I got you, buddy. I got you. Tonight, guys, here's this. Does anyone know why Joe Ellis hated the Shanahans? He was an idiot, in my opinion. Chad, where's Scott when you need him? LOL. Hey, it's all good. I'm perfectly capable of holding down the fort. It's okay. I just got to wet my whistle every once in a while. Normally, I can do that when I serve it over to Zach, and no one's expecting me to talk and entertain them. Yes, this is what I'm wondering as well. Papa Bear, how you feeling? From the Pearl. Great to see you, Pearl. What was the question again? Why did Joe Ellis hate the Shanahans? So purportedly, it comes now. This is just things I've heard. So this is unverified rumor. Take it with a grain of salt. Okay, but it's pretty widespread. Let's put it that way. It's pretty much considered to be gospel. And that is that the tail end of the Shanahan era. You got to remember, Shanahan won back-to-back Super Bowls. That bought him a really, really long leash in the eyes of the late, great Mr. Pat Bowlen. But those last few years, man, he made a pretty categorical, in my opinion, error in utilizing his 2006 first-round pick on a quarterback to eventually supplant Jake Plummer 3 months after getting to the AFC title game, by the way, instead of using that first-round pick on a selection that would help Jake Plummer get over the hump. maybe that first round pick in the next 1 or 2 year window could have helped advance the Broncos to the Super Bowl, for example. But when you draft a quarterback in the first round, by golly, both internal and external pressures come into play. You got to play him. And so, even though Jake Plummer that year had the Broncos well in the lead in the AFC West, Shanahan got frustrated, decided to supplant him with Cutler. We ended up missing the playoffs. We all know what happens. Well, that began the 3-year kind of window of vast playoff misses and disappointment. And all along, Shanahan had the power. Okay, he had the personnel, last decision. He was basically his own GM, all that stuff. And he really was that guy. And he made a lot of bad draft picks. And there's a long-winded way of saying internally there was a kind of power struggle because Mr. B's the owner. His good friend Mike Shanahan is the guy that put 2 awesome skins on the wall, so to speak, right? 2 Lombardi trophies in the case, the team's first 2 ever. Joe Ellis, from what I've heard, believed that the tide had already turned, that the league had passed him by. Shanahan was 2-3 years beyond when Mr. B should have fired him. And it was just that internal power struggle. So who knows what happens between or behind closed doors in that situation, right? Like what kind of things Shanahan says to Ellis, or Ellis to Shanahan, or Ellis to Bolin, and it gets back to Shanahan, so on and so forth. So that's the gist of it, guys. But yeah, dude, I love Jake Plummer. So I'm partial to it. And by the way, Jake Plummer is my favorite quarterback not named John Elway in Bronco canon, and that includes Peyton Manning. For whatever it's worth, emotionally, Jake Plummer. But I also loved Jay Cutler as a Bronco. That's the honest truth. Like his 2008 season and that arm, dude. And he did have some swagger, especially in his early days. So I just think that it was too soon to pull the plug on the Plummer thing. But let me see. We're going to talk about the Marvin Mims thing. I'm going to just give a few more hellos here. It was kind of interesting. Kind of interesting what he had to say. Patrick, what's up, dude? Aloha, Priest. If the defense sputters, is VJ on the hot seat? Heck no, dude. I mean, let's put this into context. If a historic beatdown, I mean, historic, the likes of which the NFL has not witnessed, whatever it was, since the 60s, if that wasn't enough for Sean Payton to pull the plug on Vance Joseph, I mean, no, he's committed to him. And the thing you got to remember is Sean Payton makes good decisions, and he believes in Vance Joseph. And honestly, you know, this is kind of a territory where me and my pard Zach don't perfectly see eye to eye. The whole Vance Joseph subject. Look, I'll be the first one to say that he was a train wreck of a first-time head coach in 17 and 18, but he didn't have a quarterback. So for whatever it's worth, yes, they had drafted a quarterback in Kubiak's last year, but Lynch was a bust from day one. Took him 2.5 years to figure that out, but he was a bust from day one. Either way, though, Sean Payton, he goes against the consensus, or we'll just say he leans into the controversy and hires Vance Joseph, a former Broncos head coach. And dude, Vance Joseph, with the exception of that brutal, ugly game in Miami, dude, he's done a great job. I got to be honest with you. He's done a great job. Last year, obviously, so far is his very best year as a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and he's been doing it a while now. So I don't think there's any reason, Patrick, to even anticipate that the defense is going to sputter. Not only is Joseph getting wiser and wiser as he goes along, but the defense is even more loaded this year, and it's now more experienced, not just by virtue of the new talent that came in, Greenlaw, Hufanga, but the guys have weathered some storms together, and they've achieved some things now together, and there's collective belief, and there's that confidence, and oh, baby, it's going to be really fun to see. Gene, what's up, dude? Yes, got to hang out with Gene and his awesome dad, and I'm still not quite sure what the relationship is with Jimmy, but either way, we'll just call him the Brace Girdles. All right, came and hung out with me Friday night, Bridge the Gap, my band, my little passion project. We played a show in Denver, and Gene and company and Ralph, they came and hung out, and that was really cool. He says, Chad, my friend, how the heck is you? Great to meet you. Back to Broncos talk. Exactly. Friday night, little breather, a little segue of punk rock and rocking out and having fun. And now we're back to the grind. For me, the grind being, though, something that I would I do for free. I did for free for half the time I've been doing this. I didn't, I just do it for fun, baby. And you guys, I tell you what, make it such a blessing and such a important part of my life and that of my family. And I can say the same for Zach, Scott, all the guys. So Gene, and by the way, dude, special thanks to you throwing down, buying some Bridge the Gap merch, and not just showing support by paying the ticket price to get in the door, buying the merch. You're a stud, dude. Can't wait to hang out again. October 19th, the meet and greet, MHH. It's going to be dope. Okay, let me grab this too real quick from David, who's jumping in with a super chat. David Youngkin, thank you, bro. If we didn't have the Penner group, we would not have had Sean. That I agree with for sure. So two things can be true and not, two things can be true in this case, right? Like one of the things that made Denver shine for Sean Payton, and in fact, it was a big reason he was interested in going back to the NFL, was he knew that job opening was there, and it was the Walton Penners. Not only the wealthiest owners, are they the wealthiest in all of pro sports? They might be, but we'll just say for sure, wealthiest owners in the NFL. But what he had heard about them, all that stuff, then he goes and has the meeting, and the ownership was the first box that had to be checked for Sean Payton. So you're absolutely right about that, my brother. And not only that, but anyone who was serious about, hiring Sean Payton had to also be willing and ready to give up what it was going to take to get his rights from the Saints. And the Penners were willing to do that despite having 2 years utterly decimated drafts, that is, 2 drafts utterly decimated by the failed Russell Wilson trade. But part of the calculation with Sean Payton, the hire for the Penners was, man, we're the ones that were pushing hard to get, not only once we got Russ, but to get him paid before he had even stepped foot on a regular season field for us. We want to see if it can be salvaged. Who better but Sean Payton to make that happen? So they definitely deserve that credit. And by the way, David, I'm not saying that they're not great. I'm not saying that we don't have a lot to be grateful for and that their fingerprints aren't on this team in the great direction that it's heading. But I'm just talking about culture, team, locker room stuff. Okay. That's all, brother. Love you. Thank you, pal, for that super chat tonight. Goes a long way, big dog. Yeah, we'll talk about Cutler and all that stuff. If you guys want to talk some Plummer. I mean, tis the season, dude. We can go into whatever section of the weeds we want. There's nothing going on, dude. Like there's nothing except us hanging out, shooting the breeze, so to speak. It's like as if we were, if we were at the bar or at the whatever, we could talk at the water cooler, whatever. We could talk about whatever we want. That's what this platform, this forum, I should say, is about. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. All right, let me talk about this article. So in a sit down with the Denver Post's Sean Keller, a really interesting article. Let me wet the whistle. Marvin Mims, all-pro / Pro Bowl returner, had some really interesting things to say. And before I get into it, I want to remind you that I think it was last week we heard from Jaleel McLaughlin how painful, in a good way, that Buffalo Bills wild card loss was, because obviously it wasn't just that the Broncos lost. They got their rear ends handed to them 31-7, and how it motivated McLaughlin, and I think a lot of the guys. McLaughlin didn't even take any time off, according to him. That's what he said publicly. And so with that in mind, one of the first thing I want to mention to you guys that Mims told the Denver Post is, quote, ever since maybe I should do a little scratch and sniff. It's only me tonight, so I should probably try to be as comprehensive and fully entertaining, we can all follow along, as possible here. Okay, let me do a little share screen. We'll continue this line of thought here. Okay, share screen. We'll get to Marvin Mims. Hang tight. Almost there. And bada bing. Okay, so he said here, ever since we played in Buffalo, a lot of guys stayed around this offseason, and we've been in and out of the facility. A lot of guys working out together, traveling together, going on vacation together. I mean, we're the closest we've ever been since I've been here, and we're ready to go. And that is kind of interesting, don't you think, considering that he's been here basically from day one of the Sean Payton regime, the Sean Payton era. And he's saying that this year 3 of the Sean Payton regime is the closest that the team has ever been as a unit, tight knit chemistry, genuine bonds and friendships. That's encouraging. A couple other things he said. So setting the tone, etc. Quote, and this is really getting back to the main subject of the culture. Okay. Quote, you see how this team was kind of built up last year and built up this year. We have a lot of gritty players. Like, why don't you go out there and play like you want it? Not guys that are doing all this extra stuff in the offseason. I mean, think about it. You don't see any guys kind of getting reported on, any type of stuff like that. Little pin, meaning like, no, Russell Wilson's doing kissing babies over here, or this guy's over here doing that, posting on X, this and that. So he's meaning like it's radio silence. You don't see any guys kind of getting reported on, any type of stuff like that. He says guys are doing the right thing, meaning the right thing, what their coach asked them to do, which is stay out of the press. And when it's time to go, for the most part, we had all our guys at OTAs, workouts, all that stuff. And that's the stuff Payton likes to see, close quote. All right, it gets even more interesting. This is Keith's article breaking down what Keith Cummings, that is, at Broncos on SI, MHH. So then he goes on a little bit more about Sean Payton. Marvin Mims to Keller, quote, Sean Payton is going to have a competitive team regardless. He said it a bunch of times, and you guys can remember this. Young and hungry is dangerous. That's something we were last year, and we felt it. We could feel the energy. So we're excited to go. I'm excited to see what this team can do, even in preseason, because, I mean, it's a culture thing. I'm really excited. Close quote on that. And then one last thing here, talking about Bo Nix. All right, the connection. Now, remember, it was slow going for Marvin Mims in the 2024 season, but starting in week 10, that brutal Chiefs loss at Arrowhead, Mims became a focal point in the offense, and he finished with career highs in receptions and yards. Bo Nix connection. Quote, but the connection was definitely there last year between him and his quarterback. And we're just going to keep trying to grow and spread across the room, because I think especially with Bo, he knows what he wants. He knows what he sees. The quarterback coach is the pass game coordinator now, which is Davis Webb, right? He's doing both roles, quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator. So they're talking all the time, and it's going to be a lot better this year. I'm looking forward to it. Close quote. So that's interesting. That's very interesting to me, that even just what he said about Davis Webb, because the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, Davis Webb gets promoted to pass game coordinator. Does that mean he's vacating the quarterback's coach job? No. Okay. Well, is that going to be difficult for him? Is he going to be not as good of a pass game coordinator and thus not as good of a quarterback's coach because he's having to serve two masters, so to speak? That's a minor concern that I had. I don't think I really vocalized it too much on the podcast, but it was something I thought about. But you're hearing from Marvin Mims, no. It's actually going to be better as a result. That's encouraging because he's so entwined with the scheme. I mean, that's one of the things that Sean Payton gushed about, Davis Webb hiring him basically out of the NFL player ranks to come be a coach, was his football brain and the film study and how he has every game on film and charted out since he was in high school. That it's crazy. So all of that brain power, so to speak, plus the chemistry that he has with Bo, and of course his expertise of the Sean Payton scheme, getting funneled now into pass game coordinator. Really cool. Really cool. Okay, let me see. I've been talking for a minute. Let me see what you guys think. Eddie says on Facebook, Denver needed a complete culture change, and Sean brought that to the organization. That he did. And he talked about it too just a week and a half ago during mandatory minicamp, when he said, we pointed out how so many of the guys they drafted, were team captains and long tenured guys, and including the guys they brought in free agency, leader type guys, and how that's not a coincidence. This is part of, so when they're looking at players they like, whether it's pro personnel, whether it's draft, one of the boxes that has to be checked, they're not just going, oh, that dude's amazing on the field, draft him or sign him. what are the intangibles? What do they look like? And what's his resume? What was he a team captain? Do guys look to him, etc.? So it's part of the plan, and it's part of cultivating the culture. And yes, Eddie, you're 100% right on that, big dog. String guy, I always thought Payton was the best choice at head coach. He was well worth a first-round draft pick. Now the Broncos are relevant again. Denver football is fun to watch again. Indeed, it is. It's light years ahead of where I expected it to be. Like what we saw last year, the Broncos achieve is low-key what I basically was hoping to see this year. I thought last year would be pretty similar in terms of the final record. Honestly, I thought it would be pretty close to what Payton got done in year one with Russ as his quarterback. Because as high as I was on Bo Nix, he was still a rookie. Boy, was I wrong, dude. Boy, was I wrong. And I'm happy to be wrong, right? I'm happy to be wrong about that. Mike Thompson, there were 2 plays in that Buffalo game that could have changed everything. Gives me encouragement that we aren't that far off. Yeah, man, it's a razor's edge, right? The margin of error in the league is razor thin. So one of the things that helps teams come out on the right side of that margin and minimize it to the point where it's non-existent is that experience of having been down the path. That's one of the things that makes, for all those years that made Tom Brady and the Patriots so brutal for everybody, is they had been in every situation imaginable, from regular season situations to high pressure playoff situations, and prevailed. And the way that informs each individual and the collective, you're seeing it now, unfortunately. I hate to say it. We all know it's true, though. That's what you see with the Kansas City Chiefs, as an example. They've been to that point, that fork in the road so many times and prevailed that not only do they just, the next time it comes up, know how to do it, but even if it's a situation that isn't exactly something they've encountered before, they have all the confidence, belief, and let's face it, the coaching wherewithal to overcome the obstacle. And the Broncos, getting back to your point, Mike, about the plays that were on the table in Buffalo and that margin of error, that's one of the cool things. Hey, we lost that game, but that team, the Broncos, learned a lot from that situation, just that one playoff game alone, and it'll serve them well moving forward. Let me see what else here. We'll come back. I am kind of interested because there's not much going on to talk a little bit more about the Plummer, Jay Cutler era. But let me talk to my homeboy here. Ralph Brace Girdle, what's up, dude? Just pried myself away from Game 7. Oh yeah, I forgot that was even on tonight, dude. You're a stud. Thanks for spending it with me, my friend, and with us. Go Pacers, he says. It's something like 75 days until the regular season football. Can't wait. I'm racking my brain trying to remember what year in the early 2000s we had. Right, you brought this up the other night, Friday night when we were together. We had the most consecutive games without giving up a touchdown. All right, hang tight. Hold on. Do you want? Let me use some of my tools to see if I can get to the bottom of this. Hang tight. Have the not allowing. Hang tight, guys. Sorry. Let me see if we can get a quick answer on this. 2006, the Broncos defense reached a historic mark by going 11 quarters without allowing a touchdown at the start of the season. This streak ended with a touchdown pass by Tom Brady. The 06 defense also set an NFL record by allowing only one touchdown through the first 5 games of the season. So while they did not have a streak of multiple games without allowing any touchdowns, their 06 defense achieved a significant 11-quarter streak. There you have it, bro. So answers, my friend. Great to see you tonight. And it was so awesome to hang with you guys the other Friday night, dude. So good to see you. Okay, let me climb back up. And by the way, the meet and greet is going to be a gas. We'll have even more time to spend hanging out at the meet and greet because, at the show, come out to a Bridge the Gap show or whatever, my mind has to be very much on the task at hand. And there's a lot of glad handing and stuff that has to be done within the, whether it's the promoter, the other bands, the venue, this and that. Then you also have to load your gear on. Then you got to load your gear off. Then you also got to perform in between. So I'm not as available in those situations. So I do appreciate you still coming out. My point being, the meet and greet, I'll just be hanging out at a table in the bright sun of Mile High for 3-4 hours before the game. So we'll just be chilling. We'll have all the time in the world. It's going to be dope. Okay, where are we at? Guys, probably no surprise to you, but I'm going to keep it pretty tight tonight. So if you have any burning questions, supers, topics, get them in the chat. We're sitting at about 25 minutes. We're doing all right. But I'll probably keep it pretty tight tonight in terms of how long I stay going live. All right, let me see what Eric says here. Love Jay Cutler as well. Well, first of all, he said, well, it was Eddie saying, I also love me some Jake Plummer. And then Eric saying, I love Jay Cutler as well. Hated how his Broncos career ended. Him and Brandon Marshall were such a good duo in Denver. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Jay Cutler, dude. There's two things that come to mind for me when it comes to Cutler in good way, the good things. The first is that initial year he got put in place of Plummer, that ridiculous across his body throw on a naked bootleg that was like a 65-yard touchdown strike to Javon Walker. And it was the type of throw that at that time anyway, you're only seeing that kind of power and accuracy from a guy like Elway. So it was like, whoa, dude, what do we got here? All right. And unfortunately, too many mistakes, a lot of picks and whatnot as a player. But then again, Jake Plummer, that's what frustrated Mike Shanahan so much, and why he ultimately pulled the plug and drafted Cutler was the mistakes. That's why that 2005 year, it was obviously Jake Plummer's best. And one of the reasons why he was able to minimize the mistakes, especially early on. And I remember, they called him No Mistake Jake for a while there, but it wasn't built to last. And that ended up crumbling. He turned in his worst game as a Bronco in the penultimate worst possible situation, AFC Championship game at home with a second-year quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, you should have won that game. We just read about, based on what Ralph was talking about, how good that 2005 defense was. Still had Al Wilson, DJ Williams. I want to say Ian Gold. I'm not certain if Ian Gold was still on the team, though, off the top of my head. But obviously, DJ, not a great defensive line. That was one of the bugaboos about Mike Shanahan, is he just made a lot of bad decisions, and it often impacted most greatly the defensive line, like bad draft picks, Jarvis Moss, becoming the Denver Broncos, right? So many former Browns coming to play, Ebenezer Ekubon, Courtney Brown, Gerard Warren. That's just off the top of my head. But yeah, dude, that defense though was legit, because you also had Champ Bailey. That year you also had Darren Williams and some other great guys. So squandered opportunity, frustrated Shanahan. The rest is history. But on the topic of the Cutler Marshall thing, I remember early in Marshall's career, after he started having success, putting up multiple 1,000-yard seasons and Pro Bowls and all that, that he would credit Jay Cutler for helping him to become that guy early on. And we're still left to wonder what could have been if first of all, if Pat Bowlen doesn't decide to hire Josh McDaniels. Like, okay, hire somebody else. You fired coach. I still don't. I think he shouldn't have fired Mike Shanahan, to be honest with you. But you fired him. Just don't hire that guy. But okay, you hire him. Hey, Josh, at least don't trade the franchise quarterback who was a first-round pick 3 years ago, who's just coming off literally his first Pro Bowl year. Don't trade that guy, numbnut, right? Like, hello, what could have been? I don't know. I do believe, though, that Jay Cutler's career arc, had he stayed in Denver in the city that drafted him, would have been vastly different than how it ended up trending in Chicago. So for what it's worth, something about that situation affected him mentally, and I don't think he ever recovered from it, to be frank. Like, his confidence or his passion. I mean, even just losing Mike Shanahan was really tough on him. Then to be dealt and kind of betrayed the way he felt anyway. Bummer. All right. Hey, Derek, what's up, dude? Reaching out from California. Love the show. Love the Broncos. Thanks for being with us, big dog. Wonderful job keeping us entertained and up to date during the off season. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy. At times, this time of year, there are times, even Scott and I today, it's like, I don't know, man. Like maybe like oversaturating. We're doing, maybe we should give everybody a break. I'm like, well, since I started doing these live streams, there's been no point in an off season where that was ever a question or that we ever felt we needed to maybe pull off or take our foot off the gas, so to speak. I'm not going to do it this time. Yeah, it has. You guys have heard me complain about it. Been a weird off season for MHH in terms of traffic on the website, live viewership, views, all that. But guess what? It's actually an NFL wide thing. NFL traffic, NFL, all of it has been down this year for some reason, this offseason. No one can quite put their finger on why and what it is. I think it has a lot to do with the state of the world and the new, whether you hate him or love him, the new presidency coming in early on, the first 100 days, the economy, and then, some of the world events been going on. It's just people are taking a little breather. But what's crazy about that is the way this show really took off. We started doing it in 2019, the football season of 19. So Locke's rookie year, Drew Locke's rookie year. But where it really went into like overdrive and we went to the stratosphere was actually when the pandemic started. That whole period from whatever it was, late February through that whole season. But I'm keeping it focused on the off season though. It was insane because I don't know, maybe it's because everybody was at home. Crazy stuff going on in the world, people worrying that it was going to be the end or something, right? It was crazy. But at the very least was all the leagues and stuff were canceling seasons. We fully didn't expect the NFL. We didn't know if the NFL was going to even have a season. And yet the chat, the conversation, everything, the listens, the streams, the downloads was in the stratosphere. And I think we got through that really gnarly period together. But this time it's a little bit different, because maybe that has to do with, people aren't stuck at home. They're not literally locked in their house. Either way, I don't want to complain to you too much more about that. String guy, good point, Chad. Jeff George was another QB with $1 million arm, but a 2-cent head. Bo Nix is a perfect example of a QB that has the arm and also the football IQ. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, Jeff George was one of those just, man, what could have been if he lands in the right place to help him offset the 2-cent head. He definitely had that ridiculous arm. Todd Ostendorf, what's up, brother? Saying, honestly, I'm not sure that Audric Estime will have a place on the team. Maybe they'll try and trade him. I could see that, but J.K. Dobbins is doing his job. Meaning he's taking over the Estime's gig. I get that. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I'm trying to remember who it was. Might have been Eric that was talking last week. I can't remember if it was a podcast or an article, but that Audric Estime's roster outlook is far, far, far from certain as a result of J.K. Dobbins. I don't know, dude. I think it's more of it's a little bit further down the depth chart. Blake Watson, Tyler Bidet, only because two things. One, he was a 5th-round pick and a Sean Payton draft pick at that. I get it. Sean Payton has cut guys a year in that were drafted even higher than Audric Estime, but outside of those 2 fumbles on his first, whatever it was, 9 carries, he didn't exactly screw the pooch, so to speak. He was a rookie going through by the time Sean Payton gave him a chance to start playing again after the fumbles, he held it down. There were a few really big games where he leaned on Estime to be the battering ram, including both Chiefs games. So his efficiency was lower in those games because it was super physical, really good defense, all that. And then what happened to where you go to Buffalo on the road? Don't you think you want your battering ram ready to go? Healthy scratch. So, yeah, but the second thing is what he said about Estime literally the week before they brought in J.K. Dobbins, which is he's a guy that needs the touches to get into a groove, and this time he's going to get those opportunities. I don't think he's going anywhere, but at the same time, Todd, I would not obviously be surprised if he ends up being a casualty. We shall see, my brother. Glenn, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Good morning for him, because of course he's in Melbourne, Australia. He's in the land of Oz. Good morning, Chad. Bridging the gap on your own. Mine is Zach. Exactly. What's up, Broncos country? Deacon Scott not with us tonight, but he'll, I'm sure, hear you. 05 and the Super Bowl loss to the Seahawks definitely are the ones that got away. Yeah. I mean, you can wind it all the way back to, if you wanted to, the Elway Super Bowl losses, but in the modern era, we'll just call it the 21st century, those were definitely the two that got away. 05, man, because think about this. If you do what you're supposed to, you handle your business in that AFC title game against the Steelers, you're beating the Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander Seahawks. They were a paper tiger. The Broncos were going to win that game if they get to the Super Bowl, but they could not get past the Steelers, man, at home. So frustrating. And then, yeah, that Seahawks game. So ironic, right? The Broncos that year had become almost like perceived to be invincible, impervious. All the records: Peyton Manning, 55 touchdowns, 5,477 yards, highest scoring offense all time, 606 points. What the heck happened? I think it was the curse of the cold weather stadium, frankly, honestly. I think that was like an omen. Peyton Manning, obviously, his whole career was never a good cold weather quarterback. He was a dome guy all those years. I mean, a decade and a half in Indianapolis. The worst possible thing that the NFL could have done to help the Broncos was schedule a Super Bowl in a cold weather stadium. That was the first time it had been done since the early days, right? The Super Bowl is supposed to be either in a dome or a warm weather city, so that weather's not a factor on the game. But I don't remember the reasons why the NFL decided to give it a shot in the Big Apple. But that was a big reason why, I'm telling you right now. And the Seahawks just came to play, baby. That Legion of Boom, they were on a roll. And the way they made it through their playoff run and the teams they had to vanquish really honed them into a sharp tool. So anyway, we'll always wonder. That's for sure, big dog. Okay, let me see. One or two more things, then I'll probably dip on out of here, guys. I want to see if I can find someone who I haven't touched on yet. I can't. Hey, the guy at 647 who says Estime not being on the Bills playoff game says a lot. I would flash your comment on the screen, but I can't, dude, because your handle's gnarly. It's not family friendly, so I can't flash it. Maurice wants to know, what's up, fam? Who's going to London? See you there. I've had quite a few people reach out to me, not only like U.S. American people going, hey, are you going to go to the London game? We're going to go, blah, blah. But also many MHHers who live in the UK and in Europe. So yeah, that'll be fun. I'm probably not going to go, but for what it's worth, I hope it's a blast for those of you that do. String guy, it's just fun, dude. And I just don't like to disappoint my peoples. I don't like to disappoint you guys. You know what I mean? That's the last thing I'd want to do. MBLE X test prep. Don't worry, Camden. I'm coming right back to you. What's up, dude? Who is your favorite punk band? I got to go Pennywise. Whoa. You want to get out into the weeds? All right. So my favorite all time is Bad Religion. That's my favorite band. Some people, they say, oh, I love the Beatles, or I love the best band of all time is, pick a band, whatever, Metallica or whatever. For me, it is Bad Religion. And a lot of people who don't know too much about like punk rock, they hear the name and they think that, they just infer or assume that it's like some kind of super offensive, devil music or something. But Bad Religion is super highbrow. I learned my appreciation for vocabulary, words, English, honestly came from learning and reading Bad Religion lyrics. I can't even tell you how many times I went for a thesaurus to figure out in a dictionary to figure out what these words in their songs meant. But anyway, Pennywise is in my top 5 though. Pennywise is. I went to a Pennywise. The first concert I ever went to, I was 15 years old, and it was Pennywise on tour, and that show made me go, oh, that's what I want to do. That made me get into wanting to play music. So yeah, I love Pennywise, dude. I love Pennywise too. Seriously, love Pennywise. There might be times that you get someone ask me and I'll say, probably my second favorite. Probably more often than not, they're my number 2, but definitely top 5. And Guttermouth, oh yeah, dude, I love them. I do. And we've played shows with those guys and stuff like that, but that's definitely not family friendly band. Just so everybody knows, I'm not saying go check it out. Ralph saying BR or Social Distortion. Amen to that. Social D for me has been like, to me, it's cool and all. I get it. Trust me, I've listened to more Social D but it's kind of boring to me, Social D. If I'm in the mood for like 3-chord rotation, mid-tempo ballads, rockers, I'm going to go listen to like Ramones. But there are some records of Social D that are absolutely amazing that I love. They're just not in my nowhere even near my top 10. They maybe be top 25. But hey, that's one of the great things about music, Ralph. To each their own. And the fact that you're even mentioning BR, man, makes you even cooler to me, big dog, for what it's worth. Glenn says punk band Aussie's own Spiderbait, Bad Religion are really cool. The Sex Pistols too. Yeah, I remember getting into the Pistols early on, but really pretty, unfortunately, kind of shallow lyrical content. So I wasn't too into them. Yeah, BR, No Effects. Yeah, of course, No Effects. They're top 5 for me. No Effects is top 5. So yeah, we could talk about punk rock, dude, all day long. Like if I had more time in the world, I would probably start a punk rock podcast, but I don't. Camden, brother, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Means a lot, big dog. He says, hi, Chad. If Evan Ingram is going to split snaps as a tight end and a big slot, could the Broncos potentially add another tight end to the roster, or do they have faith in Troutman? There's definitely a possibility it could happen. I think it depends greatly on health. I think the majority of their hopes and aspirations for the offense are centered around Ingram as that guy in the middle. As far as blocking's concerned, though, that's not his forte. And so Troutman, Nate Adkins is probably better blocker, but Troutman's, I don't know. Troutman to me is like the only thing to write home about. The only that's not the best. The only saving grace, the only leg he has to stand on is his past association and history with Sean Payton. But he is loved in that locker room, though. So let's not take that away from him. They obviously do have some kind of faith in Troutman. But it wouldn't be a total shocker to me if they went out and found a guy. But what they need is not another receiving tight end. They need a blocking guy. That's what they need. And Caleb Lohner isn't going to be that guy, maybe ever, but certainly not in the first couple of years he's in town. So, but yeah, we'll see, buddy. I don't think so. I don't think it's in the plans. But health, and if they get to camp and start getting to the preseason games and they're woefully disappointed with how the Troutmans and the Krolls and the Adkins and the Loners are holding up in blocking, then I could see a move being made. But that's a big if, and we won't know till we get a little bit further into that process, big dog. Thank you so much, though, for the super chat, brother. Okay, I'm taking one last look here. Yeah, I agree, Maurice. Social D, way overrated. Sorry, it's the truth. And Osbaldo, dude, Misfits, they are a top 10. Not a top 5 for me, but definitely top 10. Love them. Danzig era, of course. But I also like the Michael Graves era for what it's worth. Although I used to turn my nose up at it. I came around, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Now I appreciate it. Okay, guys, listen. Osbaldo, since you're bringing up the Misfits, I got to get this for you, big dog. Who do you want to succeed more, Pat Bryant or Troy Franklin? I can't split the plum like that, dude. I want them both to succeed, right? I'm sure you all do. You want both to succeed. Pat Bryant is a higher draft pick, right? Barely. But they also gave up a bunch of stuff to get Troy Franklin to trade up and get him in the 4th round. So I would say I have no favoritism in that sense, but both of them, I think, guys, are going to be really good. You got to remember Franklin, man. He was young, he was skinny, the Bo Nix chemistry from Oregon did not serve him as well as I think a lot of us anticipated or expected it to. But now that year in the league and acclimating, he's put on 5 pounds. Sean Payton's raving about Troy Franklin. I think he's going to be a big factor in the offense this year. And Pat Bryant will as well. Not as big this year, I don't think. But he's also the kind of guy that it would not shock me if he comes in and just like takes over stuff, because he's that kind of a personality and he's a leader. Football is the most important thing to him, etc. But I don't know. I mean, if you have an answer to that question, Osbaldo, go ahead and drop it in the chat and then tell me why there is a favoritism. Like, I think it benefits the Broncos. I don't think there's any way to read that question in a way that which one would benefit the Broncos more. That's how I would view it. And I don't think there's an answer. Mike Thompson, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the super. Injuries happened in that Super Bowl. True. I used to know this this off the top of my head, but what was it? 7 starters absent in Super Bowl 48. Hold on. How many were out for the Broncos? Hang tight. Yeah, so here are a few of the names that were not in that game. Of course, the most conspicuous were Von Miller and Chris Harris, both of whom were out with ACL tears. No Ryan Clady. No Derek Wolfe. Kevin Vickerson, I want to say. Raheem Moore, I think, was still a starter. Either way, yeah, dude. 5 of those starters just on defense, okay? 5 just on defense. Von Miller, Chris Harris, Derek Wolfe, Kevin Vickerson, Raheem Moore, right? So plus not having Clady, that was one of the big disappointments of the Peyton Manning era, is that Clady couldn't stay healthy to help. I mean, he finally got the perfect quarterback to block for as far as being a elite blindside protector. And dude, he was healthy the first year, 2012, Pro Bowl, All-Pro. 13, he gets hurt. 14 healthy, 15 hurt again. So it was like he'd revolve every other year. And the 2 years they went to the Super Bowl, the 2 years he was gone. Such a bummer. Mike, appreciate you, big dog. Oh, yeah, Ramon's rule, dude. Ramon's rule. No doubt about it. Okay. Guys, listen here. I'm just doing one last little scrolly. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. Yeah, Maurice Franklin needs a breakout season. But, you can't lose sight also of Devon Vele dealing with the ankle. But he looks amazing this offseason. And he shares something in common with, well, basically the fact that he's the most productive rookie 7th round pick receiver since Marcus Colston of all receivers. To me, that's a harbinger. Like, that's some kind of a cosmic connector, because you're telling me that the 2 most productive wide receivers drafted in the 7th round, their rookie seasons, meaning both were coached by Sean Payton. That sounds like football god stuff to me. All right. Something's going on there, my brother. So Devon Vele, I think the best is yet to come. His big thing, even more so obviously than Franklin or a Marvin Mims, Vele's thing is, can you stay healthy? He's missed time already as a pro. Not too much, nothing crazy, but he did miss a couple games last year with ribs, and then he's missing time this offseason with that ankle. So we'll see. Yeah, dude, fun. I'm just looking at some of the other comments about the bands. Okay, here we go. Tool. Yeah, dude. Tool Opiate was one of the first albums I ever bought when I was like 14. It was like the only record that existed of Tool at the time. It was predated Undertow, all that stuff. But they're a cool band. They're not like my favorite genre of tunes, but they're a genre unto themselves anyway, right? Tool. William Hayes is saying Bad Company and Eagles. Heck yeah, dude. That's cool. Megadeth from Osbaldo. Now, obviously, these last few bands we mentioned are not punk bands, but I think it's fun to hear what people's favorite bands are. Keep it coming, dude. Osbaldo also brings up Suicidal Tendencies. Yeah, dude. All I wanted was a Pepsi, my brother. Although I got to tell you, their music's pretty hit and miss, but that first record, phenomenal. Glenn Ashley, lyrical grammar and punk rock or rap or rock is where it's at. To me, look, if I'm in the mood for like lowbrow humor and stuff, because there's a lot of bands like that in punk rock, Guttermouth was brought up. I got to be in the mood for it, but I'm here for it because I'm like, sometimes my sense of humor, though I'm still 14. But the music that means the most to me, yeah, there's got to be cool music, cool, like the guitars, the drums got to be cool. Great melody, but the lyrics have to be meaningful. And that's where Bad Religion shines the most, guys. I got to tell you. If you're ever curious, start with their album called Stranger Than Fiction, and then move on to another one called Process of Belief. Okay, guys, I'm going to dip out of here. Remember to connect with us on Twitter, the podcast account at the MHH Pod, the main account at Mile High Huddle on X. Give us a like on our podcast Facebook page, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you'd like to get a t-shirt, a hat, something like that, MHHmerch.com. Get your swag on. Instagram continues to roll. Appreciate all of our new followers on Instagram. And if you're within the sound of my voice right now and you're a daily listener of the show and you're not following us on Instagram, you're an Instagram user, you're not, correct that, dude. At mile_high_huddle. Connect with us over there. Help us out. Subscribe, like, share. Best things you can do. Guys, there are so many millions, honestly, of Broncos fans out there wandering who have no idea this community's chilling, waiting to embrace them. So the best way to reach those people, yes, word of mouth, like the brace girdles. Again, I'll give an example, like Ralph and Gene and those guys, Jimmy. That was a word of mouth thing, and it brought them together. And so tell your friends. If you know they're Broncos fans, tell them about the show. But also sharing it on your social media is a great way to help us out. Zach always does the fun little sign-off thing. I can never remember it, even though I've heard him say it 1,400 times or something like that. Literally, we're approaching the 1,400 episode mark. But before I get to my official sign-off, I got to give shouts to the Papa Bear, the great Super Chat superstars and supporters, helping me keep the lights on tonight. David Yunkin, Gene William, Ralph Bracegirdle, MBLEX Test Prep, bringing up the punk rock. I love it, dude. Now, you became many, many degrees cooler to me just tonight, my friend. Camden, Mike Thompson. If I missed anybody on Facebook in terms of stars, yeah, like Glenn says, in the name of the Ronk, great night on the MHH podcast, Mile High Huddle podcast, Chad. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it's one of the rare nights we're not seeing the Ronk in the chat, and that's okay. Gravy, I'm just going to call you Gravy. Any love for At the Drive-In? No. I'm not really here for that avant-garde stuff. So, not my cup of tea, but again, to each their own. Todd says corn. You know, there was a time in my life where corn to me was imminently uncool. But I got to tell you that I no longer feel that way. And I actually really love their first record. That album opener, Blind, is one of the best hard rock album openers of the 90s, if you ask me. You know who's a Disturbed fan? Scott Kennedy, Randy. Big fan of Disturbed. And if they're on, I'm not turning them off. But, you know, that genre of music's not my favorite. But that's not what I was asking. I'm asking, what are your favorite bands? So that's what I want to hear, and you're telling me, and I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, Todd, it does seem as if Vele is the number 2 right now. So, but that's very much in flux and open to being shaken up through training camp. So, yeah, dude, Guttermouth rocks, man. You knew Derek? I didn't know he passed. Bro, I'm sorry about that. Dang, bro. That's a bummer. I'm really sorry to hear that. Okay. Good joke, string guy. Good joke. All right, guys. Zach's on vacay again. I'll remind you. Scott probably be out the next couple nights, but I'll be holding it down. We'll continue to have these fun conversations, go through it. I have a blast. Have a great rest of your weekend. Great start to your week. Love you.